$200 million. That is what it cost to buy a concrete and glass mansion on the cliffs of Malibu, designed by one of the most celebrated architects alive, the single most expensive home purchase in California history. The man who bought it grew up inside a 1,705-unit public housing project in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, in an apartment without running water for stretches of his childhood. Between those two addresses, he and his wife built a combined fortune that Forbes now estimates above $3.5 billion. Hip-hop has produced more overnight millionaires than almost any cultural industry in American history. It has also produced more bankruptcies. Artists who earned tens of millions and lost it within 5 years because they rented the lifestyle instead of buying the infrastructure underneath it. One Brooklyn-born couple looked at that pattern early, refused it completely, and built something the music industry was never designed to produce: full ownership of everything on their own terms. Today, we are breaking down the financial empire behind the richest black family in Brooklyn that broke the rules of wealth. The Carters, Sean Carter and Beyonce Knowles Carter. A combined fortune built not on royalty checks, but on the single principle that changed everything. Never rent what you can own outright. Stay locked in until the end, because we are breaking down the moment a Champagne executive publicly insulted hip-hop's relationship with his brand, and Jay-Z responded not with a diss track, but with a checkbook. He boycotted the brand, found its direct competitor, bought it outright, built it into a global luxury label, and sold half of it back to the very industry that had dismissed him for $300 million. That single decision is the clearest blueprint for everything the Carter family has built since. We are going chapter by chapter, from a Brooklyn housing project and a Houston girl group to a combined empire spanning music, fashion, spirits, technology, and real estate. This story does not start with a record deal. It starts with two separate decisions, made years apart, to never again let someone else hold the masters. Chapter 1. Marcy Houses and the businessman who refused to be a business. Sean Corey Carter was born on December 4, 1969, in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in the Marcy Houses, a 1,705 apartment public housing complex in Bedford-Stuyvesant, so notoriously dangerous in its era that the surrounding neighborhood eventually required direct intervention. His father left the family when Sean was 11 years old. By 13, the crack epidemic had fully consumed his neighborhood, and he began selling drugs, an experience he has spoken about openly, and one that would later shape both his lyrical content and his instinct for reading markets, managing risk, and understanding leverage. He attended two different Brooklyn high schools and never formally graduated from either. He was not handed an education in finance. He built one on a street corner, then spent the next 3 decades proving that the same instincts could scale far beyond it. After struggling to secure a traditional record deal, Carter co-founded Rockefeller Records in 1994 specifically to release his own music, a decision that, on its surface, looked like a workaround. In hindsight, it was the first move in a lifelong pattern. He released Reasonable Doubt in 1996, now enshrined in the Grammy Hall of Fame. He launched Rockaware in 1999 with Damon Dash, building it into a $350 to $450 million annual revenue clothing label before selling the brand rights to Iconic's brand group for $204 million in 2007, while retaining creative and marketing oversight, and later repurchasing the intellectual property outright in 2019 for $15 million. In June 2019, Forbes confirmed what insiders had suspected for years: Sean Carter had become hip-hop's first billionaire. As of 2026, his personal net worth is estimated at $2.8 billion, making him the wealthiest musician on the planet, his fortune now exceeding the combined estates of Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles. The financial concept Jay-Z has executed more consistently than any other musician in history is called ownership substitution. the systematic refusal to accept a royalty, endorsement, or licensing fee when an equity position is available instead. In 2006, the head of Cristal's parent company made a dismissive comment about hip-hop's embrace of the brand. Carter responded by publicly boycotting Cristal entirely and then went looking for an alternative. He found Armand de Brignac, a virtually unknown champagne house, and acquired it outright. He built it from obscurity into one of the most recognized luxury champagne brands in the world, known globally by its nickname, Ace of Spades. In 2021, he sold a 50% stake to LVMH for $300 million. He ran a parallel play with Douce Cognac, eventually selling half of that brand to Bacardi in 2023 for a reported $750 million after a public legal dispute over the terms. He co-founded the 4040 Club sports bar chain in 2003, founded Rock Nation in 2008 as a full-service entertainment and sports agency, acquired the Aspiro streaming technology company in 2015 and relaunched it as Tidal, and co-founded Marcy Venture Partners, a venture capital firm named after the housing project he grew up in that has invested in Uber, Savage X Fenty, Oatly, and dozens of other early-stage companies. Every single one of these moves follows the same rule: never take the fee when you can take the company. The reward for 3 decades of refusing royalties in favor of equity? An art collection anchored by Jean-Michel Basquiat, works valued at roughly $70 million. A board seat at Block, the publicly traded technology company that acquired Tidal. Induction into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the first hip-hop act to receive the latter honor. And in 2026, the Brooklyn Public Library wallpapered its own facade with his lyrics as part of a citywide 30-year retrospective of his debut album. The boy from Marcy Houses did not just escape the project, he turned the project itself into a permanent cultural landmark on his own terms and on his own timeline. Chapter 2: The Partner, Beyonce and the Business Behind the Voice. If you have ever assumed that a singer's fortune comes primarily from the songs themselves, the second half of this story will change your thinking permanently. Beyonce Giselle Knowles was born in Houston, Texas in 1981 and rose to fame in the late 1990s as the lead vocalist of Destiny's Child, one of the best-selling girl groups in music history. By the time she launched her solo career in 2003 with Dangerously in Love, she was already operating with a business instinct that distinguished her from nearly every other artist of her generation. She did not simply want to perform the music. She wanted to own the machinery that produced it. In 2008, Beyonce founded Parkwood Entertainment, the company that, starting with her 2011 album 4, has independently owned and released every one of her records. That single decision meant she controlled her own masters at a time when most artists, even superstars, were signing those rights away to labels for life. Parkwood also produces her films, Black is King, Homecoming, the Renaissance concert film that she wrote, directed, and produced herself. She built Ivy Park into a major athleisure partnership with Adidas, capitalizing on the booming activewear market. She launched Sacred, a hair care line developed alongside her mother Tina Knowles and her own daughter, a 3-generation family business operating in real time on camera. And in late 2025, her Cowboy Carter tour became the highest-grossing tour of the year, generating over $400 million and pushing her personal net worth past the billion-dollar threshold for the first time, making her only the 5th musician in history and one of only 3 women to reach that status. The financial concept Beyonce has deployed with extraordinary consistency is called vertical creative control, the practice of owning every layer of production behind a creative output, from the master recording to the visual album to the merchandise to the touring company, so that no single intermediary can extract value at her expense. When she releases an album, Parkwood owns it outright. When she tours, the visual album that documents the tour is also a Parkwood production, generating a second and third revenue stream from the same body of creative work. When she launches a product line, she builds in family succession from day one, her mother as co-founder, her teenage daughter visibly involved in the brand. This is not a celebrity lending her name to a product. This is a media company structured with the same discipline as a Fortune 500 conglomerate that happens to be run by one of the most famous performers alive. The reward for owning every layer of the machine. 27 Grammy Awards, more than any artist of any genre in the history of the institution. A billion-dollar personal fortune confirmed independently of her husband's wealth. A teenage daughter, Blue Ivy, already performing as a dancer on her mother's world tours and building her own creative footprint. And a media company, Parkwood, that will continue generating revenue from a 5-decade body of work long after touring becomes physically impossible. Beyonce did not just become one of the best-selling artists alive, she built the corporate infrastructure to make sure that status converts into permanent, compounding wealth. Chapter 3: The Combined Empire. What happens when two ownership strategies marry? When Sean Carter and Beyonce Knowles married in a private ceremony at their Manhattan penthouse on April 4, 2008, the union that resulted was not simply a celebrity marriage. It was the merger of two parallel ownership strategies that separately had already made each of them extraordinarily wealthy, and that combined created a commercial entity capable of moving markets in real estate, fashion, spirits, and live entertainment simultaneously. The Carters' combined fortune is now estimated above $3.5 billion. Their joint on-the-run tours, performed together between 2014 and 2018, grossed over $360 million. Their real estate portfolio, built methodically over 2 decades, exceeds $350 million and includes an $88 million Bel Air compound purchased in 2017, a $26 million Hamptons estate known as the Pond House, a Tribeca penthouse purchased in 2004, and the record-setting $200 million Malibu mansion acquired in 2023, designed by Tadao Ando, the most expensive home sale in California history. In 2018, they released The Carters, a full joint album under that name, a creative and commercial statement that their partnership was not incidental to their wealth. It was foundational to it. The combined financial concept the Carters now operate under is called portfolio diversification through dual brand leverage, the deliberate construction of investments and philanthropic infrastructure where each partner's individual commercial credibility amplifies the others, while both maintain entirely independent asset bases. Jay-Z's early $2 million investment in Uber grew to approximately $70 million, made through the same instinct for early-stage equity that built his liquor empire. Marcy Venture Partners, named for the housing project he grew up in, merged with Pendulum Holdings to form Marcy Penn Capital Partners, now managing over $1 billion in assets. The Sean Carter Foundation, founded in 2003, raised $20 million for scholarships at its 20th anniversary gala alone. Be Good, Beyonce's parallel philanthropic initiative, has funded education, arts, and community development programs independently of her husband's foundation. Neither partner depends on the other's brand, but together, when they appear at the same event, sign the same real estate deal, or release a joint album. The combined cultural and commercial weight is larger than the sum of either individual empire. The life that two independent billion-dollar ownership strategies combined under one roof ultimately produce a $200 million architectural landmark on the cliffs of Malibu, a combined real estate portfolio spanning Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Hamptons, Bel Air, New Orleans, and the Bahamas. 3 children, Blue Ivy, Rumi, and Sir, growing up not as passive heirs, but as visible participants in a family business that spans music, fashion, spirits, technology, and venture capital. And 2 names, Sean Carter and Beyonce Knowles Carter, that started in a Brooklyn housing project and a Houston suburb and now sit, independently and combined, among the wealthiest entertainers who have ever lived. Jay-Z said it most plainly himself, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." Beyonce simply built the company to prove the same thing was true for her. From the Marcy houses in Brooklyn to a $200 million mansion on the cliffs of Malibu. The Carter family proves that the biggest wealth-building decision either of them ever made wasn't a song, a tour, or an album. It was the decision, made independently by both of them years before they ever married, to never again accept a fee when an ownership stake was available instead. So tell us in the comments, which blueprint hit hardest? Jay-Z's ownership substitution, boycotting Cristal out of spite, and building a $300 million champagne empire instead? Beyoncé's vertical creative control, owning her own masters since 2011 and crossing $1 billion solo? Or the combined Carter empire, two independent fortunes that, together, exceed $3.5 billion? Drop it below right now.